was doing similar stuff.
Take it off the landing.
Okay, it's 4:30, so I'm going to call the meeting to order.
When?
And I'm going to start with the territorial acknowledgement. We would like to acknowledge that the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Ktunaxa, the Syilx, and the Sinixt peoples, and is home to the Métis and many diverse Aboriginal persons. We honor their connection to the land and rivers and respect the importance of the environment to our strength as a community. So the next item is the approval of the agenda. And so who would like to put forward to move the proposed resolution that the Nelson Police Board accepts the agenda as circulated? Karen, seconder, Eric. All in favor? Okay, approved. Next is adoption of minutes. So I need someone to move the proposed resolution that the Nelson Police Board accepts the minutes of January 7th, 2026 as presented. Mover. Marta, seconder Devin. Approved. Oh, all in favor, sorry. Approved. Okay, business arising from previous minutes. So the first item is the WorkSafe top-up wording. There has been some adjustment to the wording which was included in the agenda package. And Marta, I don't know if you would like to speak to this at all,
sure.
or if anyone has questions.
So Christine and Eric and I had a chance to meet with Lindsay, an HR manager, I think is her title, over at the city, and she gave us some background on this. And we just updated the language, I think, to more specifically reflect the need that we were trying to address, which was really when non-commissioned officers are acting as commissioned officers and have a compensable injury during that specific period of time. So we just kind of delineated that here, and we're putting forward this motion. And we also added some language in here that accumulated sick leave would need to be used first, just so that we're being responsible with, our entitlements. So I think this meets the need and just kind of addresses it more specifically. So we're comfortable with this language going forward for a motion. I did have a couple of questions I'd like to put for the department. Just for going forward, I don't expect you to have answers today. One is just a request for some reporting on the frequency of how often are NCOs acting as commissioned officers, and are there any fitness requirements? Because that would help us understand the risk. So, conceivably, if someone's rarely going out on active duty, the risk of them getting injured on the rare occasion that they do might be higher, and that's something we want to understand as a board.
Is there any questions on the revised wording or generally?
I guess I'm just, maybe I missed something, but I'm confused with the comparison of NCOs and commissioned officers and what you're referring to.
So
NCOs
yeah, and maybe we need some education on the language, but so we're trying to write some language for exempt officers who are acting as frontline staff. I don't know, Chief, in the meeting last week, you used the term NCO, and in my mind, that was roughly equivalent to the exempt staff. No, that's not.
NCOs are corporal sergeants and staff sergeants, so they're already covered under the CBA for injuries that occur.
Right. So we're trying to say when you folks are acting as those folks. So it's what language do we need to put in to communicate that?
Yeah. So and if you look at the wording, we actually the final wording was when the chief, the deputy chief, or inspector, that's defined as exempt staff, is required to undertake frontline officer duties. So if, again,
I think that covers it. I think I would probably change it to frontline operational duties, but frontline officer duties are operational duties, so semantics, but
okay.
It's just
NCO
NCOs
is confusing,
acting as commissioned officers is not
And that's,
relevant and
and that's why we took it out, because
Okay.
it was confusing. So we
Okay.
tried to be more specific.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, I
okay.
shouldn't have spoke to that. Yeah, it's not actually in the language. It was,
Yeah, I
Just
just
in
wanted to
mind.
make sure I hadn't missed something.
Yeah.
But
I
Yeah.
think, Chief, if you're okay with leaving frontline officer duties, I think the intention there was because we're specifying who's exempt based on kind of a role. An officer is a role, but operational is not a role
I
per
think
se.
I think it's acceptable.
Okay, and,
I agree.
okay. Any other comments or questions on this?
Where do we just, just the term, it's just a maximum of 1 year? Like, where did we come up with? Because it's just,
It
it's
says
a
it's
maximum, right?
May be provided for up to 1 year. Yeah,
So nothing further.
that's consistent with
with what
the
was put
original,
forward.
the original wording put forth. So we did not change that portion. That was what it said from the
Oh.
beginning.
So I thought the officers get a year and then potentially they can have more.
That's what the original wording was.
Yeah.
Oh,
Up to
okay.
a year and then request more to the board.
Well, there's nothing in this that prohibits requests.
Yeah.
But here we're just formalizing 1 year.
Okay. Yeah, that's because I know what the original, because I was there drafting it. So
Yeah.
okay.
Devin?
No, sorry.
Oh.
I thought I just misread something.
Any other comments or questions or proposals in terms of wording before we put forth the proposed resolution? Okay, not hearing any.
Sorry, is this, I think I misunderstood something. Is this, I'm like reading it 3 times. So will this only be for injuries that happen? Okay, that doesn't say this here.
When they're acting as officers, that's what frontline
When
officers.
acting
do.
as frontline, where am I?
Second line,
Yeah.
undertake frontline officer duties and as a result. So as a result of acting as a frontline officer, or those are the injuries we're talking about covering.
I don't know.
I'm not seeing this here. Workers' compensation supplement.
Okay, so
I feel like on page item 5.1.
I think the page that's attached to the agenda.
Oh,
is
I don't
not
know
the
how to
one
open
that's-
those.
Yeah, so I'm trying to get these all open and
Yeah.
like, I had a hard time getting them
totally
open
looking
at
at
home.
something different. I couldn't open it on my laptop.
No, I'm gonna
Sorry.
scroll down the PDF. No,
All right, here we go. This is totally different.
And just to note that there
Oh, yeah,
was
so
a
that's this one.
previous agenda sent out, the wording is different.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Okay, yeah,
So
no,
that's what
that's
it
good.
is. I've got 2 different, it's a good thing I come with 12 computers so that we can get the,
I should have brought my laptop.
yeah. So anyways, that's,
And sorry, these little things will get worked out over time, right? We're trying to adjust a few things here, so please be patient.
yeah, that's not, yeah. because-
And
So they
the
remove- that's not bad.
second part of
That's why I
this
turned this
is
back on
to be clear as to what information the board might need to actually make an informed decision. So we wanted to provide clarity in that regard. And I don't think any of that is surprising. So, but Devin, are you able to,
Yeah, no.
No,
I'm
I've got it
good.
here.
We're good. Yeah, thank you.
Both and
okay.
This is.
Okay, so let me try that again. Any other questions or proposed wording changes before we put forth resolution to adopt this wording? Okay, would someone like to move that we propose to adopt this new work-safe wording? Marta, seconder, Eric, all in favor? Approved.
I'm good if you want to put that back in front of
are you gonna be okay?
Okay, so the next
Okay, I'm gonna
item
just try to
is,
keep them both open there a little bit.
Perfect.
the next item is the Nelson Police Board Policy and Procedure Framework.
I think this is right, we need to look at it. bigger.
Based
We can just keep
on
comparing.
a meeting with the governance committee. This item is being deferred until after the governance committee can meet with the chief. And I think we're in the process of setting up a meeting around that. The next item, public input delegations, none for today. Correspondence, none for today. So we are on to the chief constable's report. So Chief, over to you.
How, I guess just in sort of trying to figure out how you want these going forward, how much you want me just to open for questions, or you want me to go through everything?
The major highlights, like,
Okay.
yeah, do the major highlights and then people can ask questions.
Okay, again, we're sort of in the process of tweaking the chief constable's report to be a little bit more in alignment with focused on the strategic plan and the initiatives that the department is undertaking to meet the objectives of the strategic plan. So you'll see that it's kind of set up in the objectives and the sort of subcategories, the goals and objectives of the strategic plan. So in the interest of implementing more enhanced mental health supports, we have a number of initiatives underway. One such was as part of the collective bargaining agreement that we're trying to get in for the last year or two with discussions with the Nelson Police Association, where we're asking that members, for their own interest and well-being, schedule an annual wellness appointment, both for physical and mental health. That was implemented late last year, so we had reminded people that, we would like them to start doing it right away, and we've sent out reminders early this year now, and I've asked that the only reporting we get is that how many people have done it to date. We're not provided information about the appointments or the specific names of members who attended the appointments, but just the fact that we'll get a number of how many people as we go along are providing an attestation that they've attended these appointments. So that's underway. We don't have any completed as of yet, but again, it's early in the year. The objective for the year obviously is to have this 100% complete, so we'll continue to follow up throughout the year on the progress of that. Succession planning, we've been determining areas, I guess, partly through an assessment of what areas are significant to the department and currently don't have any real cross-training or succession plan in place. So we've started implementing that on a number of fronts. Firstly, identifying those personnel positions where there is a potential vacancy in the next 1 and 5 years. Identified interest in cross-training potentials for candidates for future spots, new positions, in particular the admin support position. I know it's very close to going out. Is it not? It's not quite out yet, is it?
No, on Friday.
We had the LOU. Is it LOU? Sorry. The LOU signed with the MPA just as part of them being brought into the association for that position. That is completed. The job posting, we've been working with HR on that, and it's relatively finished, so it should be posted very soon. I think that's a key first step in that cross-training and succession planning for both admin support within the department and the court liaison officer position. As well, the executive assistant position, not only is it, again, a very key position that we have to keep in mind the succession planning for, but it's growing all the time as the department grows as well. So we're looking at areas where we can add additional staff, come up with maybe some more defined or separated roles, but also have that cross-training piece so that Shiloh, for example, is really the only key admin support position in the department. So if she goes on holidays, quite often either stuff gets left till she gets back, or she's in a position where she needs to be taking her laptop and stuff or checking in somewhat regularly while on holidays to have things completed, which isn't really acceptable. We've met with the IT manager, or I've met with the IT manager and the CFO in relation to IT support for the department. This was key in identifying in-house responsibilities and roles versus IT department responsibilities. Again, this is an area where I think there's significant risk for us where we have one or two people holding a lot of information and duties around the file management, the IT components, the Department of Security, and things like that. So we're working with IT, who has hired a consultant to identify what roles conceivably should be removed from people within the department and taken by the IT department, who has redundancy built in. And then once we identify the roles that are going to remain with the department, we'll look at who's doing them and what cross-training or succession planning we have for those positions. There is a plan in place to fill the vacant deputy chief position, so we're moving forward on that, and I'll provide some additional updates in camera. Performance management job descriptions for all the positions in the department have been moving along, I think, pretty well for the last 6 or 8 months, and I'd say we're about 80% complete on those. We've got 1 or 2 positions that we're just finalizing, and then on top of that, we've had 1 or 2, possibly a third new position that we're looking at bringing in, or like the admin support role that we've just brought in. We just completed that job description, so I think we're well on our way with that. I'd say we're likely to have that completed in the next month or 2. The supervisors continue to work on the annual performance plans for the officers. So they're the APAs, and the strength map benchmarking is being developed to assess the department's needs and capacities. In keeping with that, the other category is employee development, so opportunities, professional development, and leadership development. Again, I mentioned the APAs, so part of that is a learning plan. So the officers put in requests for specific training that they would like to take and have an interest in, and there has to be some kind of, rationale that is why they need it, what the benefit to the department is, what they've done on their own to work towards those things. And the training officer then takes all these things, and we will often have a meeting as a management team to kind of say, identify where some of those weaknesses and needs are within the department, and then that's combined with the training officer's assessment of which officers would likely be good to go on specific training opportunities, so that there's benefit to the member and to the department, and as a result to the community. Several members recently have been selected for some special projects that we've had on the go, and this has been, again, specific to some roles that they've demonstrated a skill in and some aptitude and interest on their own, so that we could ensure a successful completion of the projects and initiatives, but also, again, give them developmental opportunities that will both lead to future initiatives and identifying them for those training opportunities where they've demonstrated an interest. For inclusivity, partnerships and collaboration with the community, I'm sure I'm missing a couple here, but again, ongoing work with the EDI committee, developing strategies and recommendations for the Nelson Police Department. I, at the end of last year, met with the executive director for Nelson Cares, and we committed to try and make that at least 2 or 3 times a year type meeting, but probably shoot for a quarterly meeting. It was a very positive meeting. The inspector continues to have the conversations with the COP meetings with the community, and the last one was at Anchors. And I don't know if he wants to elaborate on that, but that's generally, I would say, an area where there's it's taken a bit of work, I think, to build some trust. So I think it was a pretty big accomplishment to get invited to Anchors and have that participation there. And was there anything you wanted to add on that piece?
It was great that we were able to get in there through that partnership through the EI committee.
That's great. They invited you?
They did, yes.
That's great.
And last week I attended the Indigenous engagement requirements for municipalities, and that was the first meeting we had, but it's essentially I guess a meeting to identify some of the needs within the communities, and then again, some of the roadblocks, hurdles, challenges that we might come up against, and then come up with a strategy else to move those relationships forward. As I said, I think it was a pretty good first meeting, and I think they identified some sort of fairly prevalent, I guess, challenges, but also I think some fairly good strategies to at least tackle those initial challenges, and then build those relationships up to move on to some of the other needs within not just policing, but the municipality, emergency services, things like that. We had another semi-annual town hall meeting with the Chamber of Commerce and its members. We've had probably less of a turnout this time than we've had in previous ones, but the people that were there kind of commented they felt that was because, for the most part, the chambers and the businesses are happy with the direction the police have been going and the results we've been getting within town. So, would be nice to would have had a bigger turnout this time, but at the same time, it's kind of nice to hear the reason why there maybe wasn't as big a turnout. The community policing inspector's in charge of that, so when I'm finished, he'll update the community policing goals. Community outreach, looking at developing the annual communication plan, and that would be with the MPB committee and director on internal, external, and community communications plans. So I believe Karen and I will be at some point getting together to start working on that. Strategic direction number 3, modernization. I've met a few times now with the City of Nelson facilities working groups and discussed the current needs of the city and the Nelson Police Department. Yesterday, I actually met with the library board's chair and the head librarian, Tracy Erin, and I think had a really good discussion and just sort of are looking at the proper steps to take in moving this forward. So the initial step was to look at getting the information from the facilities working group and the city's facilities manager, which kind of breaks down the different facilities within the city and their forecasted lifespan and some of the challenges, and then start sort of advancing from that as to, we realize that there's not going to be any significant movement on it in the near term, but we have had the discussion on potentially some other buildings within the city that could be looked at for either department to move to, and then just assessing sort of the pros and cons of what's available, what type of work and cost would go into making those facilities usable by either the library or ourselves, and then whichever department stays within this building, what kind of requirements there would be for renovations and that. And then obviously there's options towards new buildings, but as we have seen and known from the library's exercises and the fire department, it's a challenge in a long-term one. So I think it makes more sense to look at, what can be achieved in the next 5 to 10 years, and then start looking at contingency plans and funding for a new building 15, 20 years down the road kind of thing. So, but that's all kind of in the works. So obviously that's going to change depending on what we find out as we go along. Reviewing the benefits of professional facilities needs assessments. So again, that's going to be based a bit on what some of these initial steps are. And I think because of the cost of that, especially for a policing facility, it may not make sense to have that done in the near future if the reality is there's not going to be a new building or going to an existing building and a substantial renovation taking place. There was also a report that was presented to the City Council in relation to facilities in the city, and I don't have a copy of it, but I did talk at the last department heads meeting about whether or not we could get a copy of it for the board or potentially have that presentation given to the board. So that might also shed some light on, what realistically could be happening in the next decade or so. Mayor, did you want to comment on that? You
I mean, we can bring it across, and we're having a update of it again on Friday this week in our budget deliberations, because there were some numbers there that we had questioned, so it's coming back again. So as we continue with the facility plan, but right now it's, I mean, the bottom line is we need about $4.1 million a year to maintain the facilities that we own in the city of Nelson. We have about 1 million in the budget, so we have a constant ongoing budget shortfall. That probably makes things a little bit simpler than they are, but yeah, so we have, those numbers are going to come back, and as we look at all of the buildings we own, somewhere in that Councillor page, how many buildings do we own? 80, 60, something. There's quite a few buildings that we own in town, like, and compared to many municipalities that are 3 or 4 times our size, they don't have as many buildings that they actually own and have to take care of. So we're kind of a bit of an outlier here in Nelson. So
Awesome.
makes it
It's our
challenging.
big industry tax base.
Devin, you had a question?
I do. I'm just curious about some of the growing needs of the department. Like, you know, we're talking about looking, expanding or moving. I'm just curious
From a space perspective.
from a space perspective. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, again, maybe getting a little ahead of things, but, you know, we did, when we met yesterday, talk about, you know, if, for example, the solution was that the city was able to find the library a new space, would that meet our needs with the growth within the department? You know, we're also looking at the accessibility issues that we currently have here, and if we, you know, if the bottom floor was open for us, we could restructure a little bit of the facility, move the interview rooms, move the front counter downstairs. I know there's a few challenges to the accessibility even for the library, but obviously that'll be a lot easier to overcome than the police station right now being on the 2nd, 3rd floor. And you know, it's hard for people with mobility issues even just to get to the front counter, let alone once you come in here, the interview room is on the 3rd floor, so with no elevator. So again, there's just, you know, we're trying to mitigate those things and make it as accessible as we can with the current setup. And then if the library moved and we took over the bottom floor, we again would sort of restructure the layout of the building to, you know, move those areas that required the public to access onto that bottom or main floor that they could have sort of street entry, street level access to. So, and plus just again, with the department growing, the space that we're currently in is pretty much at max. We are doing some minor renovations right now to move some offices around that. So some of the bigger offices that are currently being used for 1 person can be used for 2 or 3 people. But again, that's only going to really accommodate maybe 3 or 4 more people that we don't have space for right now. So, you know, there's still going to be growth within the department, and, you know, over another couple of years, those plans are going to be maxed out as well.
Yeah. Thanks, Chief.
Marta?
Could you just remind us what the total headcount is, the department?
With everybody,
Yeah.
so 25 police officer positions right now. We still have a couple vacancies, which you can see from the org chart. There's four full-time dispatchers and a supervisor there, and 2 casuals, so that's another 7, so 32. Victim services and restorative justice have 3 people essentially, and the CSO.
Yeah, most important person you left off.
I knew
Okay,
you were going to say that. Yeah.
37.
Okay,
But-
thank you.
And the CLO.
38. Thank you.
Somebody. 40, give or take.
40.
but- Okay. In the innovations objectives, so the Internal Innovations Advisory Group, I think we've been doing a fairly good job in covering this off sort of organically. We haven't had a specific or set up committee, but we're looking at, as part of the strategic plan, that we would have an actual committee set up where various staff could participate or make suggestions to. As part of the innovations, though, that we have been evaluating or implementing this so far over the last couple of months and going into this year, we've added a new internal to the police department payroll system. This is the goal of this is to improve accuracy and efficiency. It's still kind of in that rollout phase, so there's been a few bugs, I would say, but we're still working towards addressing those and making that efficient and looking at ways going forward when the city gets a new payroll system that they're either compatible or we then would transition into that system. But again, that's for future. You probably see the media release and the post on Facebook, but the online criminal record checks that are used by people who need a criminal record check for volunteering or employment purposes has now gone live as of yesterday. Monday. I think it's going to be a huge innovation for the department. It certainly opens up the ability for people at all hours to get these things done when they maybe don't have time to try and find parking and walk 3 blocks to the department here to get a criminal record check done and then have to come back 3 or 4 days later to go through the same process. Now you can fill it out. There's a lot of security features within it to submit your identification and the proper forms and what you need to get that done. And again, it's time will tell, but it looks like it's going to be a pretty efficient and quick turnaround time, so people can probably get the criminal record checks back faster than they would by coming in person. There is a couple other, I would say, exciting options or abilities with that system, but we'll make sure that they're actually feasible and in place before we report on them. But it just kind of keeps getting better as we go with it. The automated license plate reader program, so the ALPRs, and that's the equipment sometimes you'll see on police vehicles. It looks like a security camera on the roof of the car. This is a pretty innovative system. It's been in place for 5 or 10 years now, 5 years anyways. And what it does is it reads license plates off of vehicles passing it, as the name would suggest. But it's connected to a significant database of motor vehicle information and drivers and people associated to those vehicles, and it gives the police the ability to, identify, more or less minor things like registration, potentially people with expired driver's license and things like that. But I would say more importantly, significant issues where prohibited drivers may be associated to that vehicle, people with outstanding warrants associated to that vehicle, and it's doing how many checks can it do in an hour with capacity?
For every car that it passes, it can pick up
hundreds if not thousands of checks.
Yeah.
So again, and police have the discretion, and I think as officers get used to using that, they can sort of decide what's worth focusing on. And I know people that have used it have said that they're quite regularly the system's alerting them to significant issues and criminality associated to vehicles on any given shift. So again, we'll have some stats on that as we move forward with it, but I think it's going to be an efficient and pretty impactful program.
I'm curious if there's an ability to set the risk level, like for officers to set in advance when they want to be notified. Like, I only want to be notified for major crimes or whatever. Or do they have to get all of the pings and then sort through them?
My understanding is there's some ability within that.
I haven't used that software. I've used a different type of software. There was no ability to, it alerts you to every notification, but you can choose to act on the notification or not act on it. Right. This one, I'm not sure if there's parameters around that. And
the last category was analytics. So We have been using heat mapping. That's an ability with crime that, again, you can sort of set it to look for the types of crimes or regularly occurring things and see where the hot spots within town are. And you could just use general heat mapping to look at all crimes. But it's a good tool to get a sense of where things are occurring and where we need to be putting our focus. So again, you can kind of set parameters a few different ways around that. Crime type assessments to determine the focus on education and crime prevention strategies. So, we'll use the heat maps and the stats that are generated by our records management systems to identify areas where crime trends may be increasing or the occurrence is higher than it probably should be, or specific areas, and then work on crime prevention strategies from that. And then the other piece of analytics that I didn't put in here, but I was looking at it again today, is the stats from our Health IM. That's been very useful for us in identifying some of the issues the frontline officers are facing, wait times at the hospitals, and then I guess identifying where it's showing us where there's trends or issues that are using up person's hours extensively, so we can address those with the hospital or other appropriate agencies.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments?
This is awesome. This layout is
Yeah.
awesome. That's my comment. Thank you so much. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate the
Thank you for
change.
your feedback, Marta.
Yeah, question on the administrative assistant posting. Curious about, it sounds like you were saying it'll be classified in the police association. Is that right? It'll be in a unionized position?
Yes.
I'm curious about the rationale for that, given that we want to give some flexibility to Shiloh presumably, and she's excluded. Like, I'm wondering if we can have that flexibility while it's a unionized position.
What do you think of that? I know we went back and forth on about whether it should be an exempt position. There is some duties that we would be having that position do, especially around the court liaison job, that there's kind of a need for them to have peace officer status for swearing information and things like that. So that was one of the concerns we had. I guess I'm not seeing completely why it's in the job description, some of the duties that Shiloh is doing. Now, I don't know if that prevents them with being in the association, in the association, as to why they would do those duties, but.
Janice, do
I
you
guess-
want to comment?
Yeah, my only concern, and that is just that we can't have the casual person come in and do, like if Shiloh's away on vacation, I think the role that she plays here for us needs to be an exempt person, right? Like, so I think and I think that's where you're probably going with this, Marta. I think that we need to look at those duties. I understand the swearing in part, and it's like, have we tried to roll maybe too many things, and not having seen the job description, can't comment, but I think we have to be careful because there's definitely things here that Shiloh does that she can't be in a union doing.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. And there's not part of the job description isn't acting as the police board secretary or support. Like that's.
But we need that. I think we need that cross training. So I guess if that's not it, I guess my understanding was that part of it was to give Shiloh.
Yeah, that's what I
when
thought.
she
Yeah.
goes away, and this is part of her, a major part of her job, right? And so if that's not here, then we're not really solving that gap.
And I have a quick question, even though I'm chair, but is it possible to do hybrid positions?
Or like two
Where
50%
part of it is unionized, or part of the association, part of it is outside. I mean, that gets kind of difficult for one person unless they're really clear on hats, or if you just break it down to two different positions. But anyways, I think this is all comment and feedback for consideration. We're not going to solve it here, but I think, yeah, those are comments for you to take back and consider. And is there any further?
Can I just ask on that?
Oh,
then?
yeah,
So
go ahead.
is that possible to have one person who's half or 3/4 of one role and 1/4 another? And I get the concern, but I guess right now there's nobody. So, I think, to be honest with you, I think we need 2 administrative support people. One that was more of an executive assistant to, there's going to be a deputy and inspector that have needs that Shiloh is really the EA to the chief, the deputy, the inspector, kind of the admin support person for the entire department, and then the police board secretary on top of it. So, I mean, at some point we got to start moving the bar forward, and we didn't get approved for 2 people. So I only have
Yeah.
one person, one position at this point. And
I think just from my professional experience in my world, like if you have budget for 100%, you could split that into 2 roles, one at 75 and one for 25, post both of those, and they would be 2 separate hiring processes. Conceivably, the same person could get awarded both positions, but they may or may not happen.
Yeah, so I think that's a very good, consideration or issue for you to take away. And, whether you want to report on it in your next update to us. But yeah, I mean, we're not going to solve it here, but I think it's very valuable feedback and something that certainly if you need any further sort of assistance with, you can also circle back with the HR committee. But I think it's something, to think about, just depending on the type of roles you want the person to do. Anything else?
I just think that while you're working through that, Chief, is just trying to weight what you see as, because that might give you the answer to, in terms of what you see as the most demanding things that need to be done and take up the most amount of time. Might give you some weight in terms of that. Maybe this year, instead of trying to split I think that the sensitivity of this, I mean, I can think of 1,000 jobs that I would split, and you can be union part of the time and non-union part of the time. I just think what is dealt with here can be so confidential, and I think having that hat switch, it's I don't know, I just can't imagine becoming sort of bipolar. So maybe at this point you go ahead with one and you figure out what it is that's the most essential thing. Would it be that person that's got all that other stuff that would sit well within a unionized position? And then in the next budgetary process, you go through and try to find what you need for that.
That's the plan. And I think, the result of this is, I mean, Shiloh already does where she plans her holidays around, because essentially
She's
very difficult
very
to have a
gracious.
police board meeting
You
without
stole her
here.
from us at the hospital, and we've not quite got over that yet. So,
But I think where it does help is there's somebody here that could take on her other duties within the department. So when she does get back, she can just kind of pick up where it's at and then get ready for the next police board meeting and do those duties, as opposed to getting back and having to do the previous 2 weeks of work to catch up. And then, I got a police board meeting come up in a week and be drowned in that as well. So, the new person, I just don't see them really doing the police board work. But I think with them being available to help take off some of the other things off of Shiloh's plate and the department admin stuff that Shiloh essentially looks after, it relieves that pressure of then having a time when, too focused on the police board when it's needed.
Okay, so unless there's anything further, I'm going to wrap up this section and move on just for time. So last chance, is there anything further before we move on to the next item? Okay. Thank you, Chief. So we need someone to make a motion for the proposed resolution that the Nelson Police Board approves the Chief Constable's report as presented. Devin, seconder Marta. And all in favor? Approved. Okay, all right, we don't have any financial report updates today, so we're going to, oh, sorry, I forgot the inspector. Sorry, Jason. I was reading too fast. Okay, inspector's report.
I will
Jason.
do a very brief overview. It is in your package. The Youth Prevention and Community Trust Constable that's funded by the Federal Gun and Gang Violence Action Fund, administered by the province of British Columbia, has started. Constable McKee is in the groundworks of developing the program. She's working with the schools, with Nelson Mental Health, with Nelson Fire and Rescue, BCA, and Sky on various projects. She's taking training through Safer Schools focused on children. So that's going really well. And she came with me to conversation with a cop at Anchor. So she's incorporating everything into, she's got a lot, she's busy, and she's working on files with youth from the schools too. She's quite busy. Community safety officer has taken on the social media post role. So we're trying to increase our social media presence, and he's been doing a great job of that with media releases and other posts on Facebook and Instagram. He also came to Coffee with a Cop with me the previous time at the Railtown Coffee, so that was good. Victim Services has taken on 32 new cases in January, which was significantly more than they had in the previous few months. They've also traveled up to Nakusp and New Denver to meet some clients up there. Restorative Justice, one file proceeded through facilitation through the YPAC member, which was great. And they're currently onboarding one new facilitator. There was a few files of note. There were 2 traffic stops over the past month in which drivers were investigated for impaired driving, all as well as possession for the purpose of trafficking drugs, and significant quantities of drugs were seized, half a kilogram of cocaine, 46 grams of methamphetamine, 53 Xanax pills, 60 doses of LSD, 5 grams of fentanyl, over $4,000 in cash, as well as 70 grams of methamphetamine. And the Community Safety and Targeted Enforcement Program, the Footloose, Project Footloose, which was the foot patrols through Baker Street, has concluded. So we completed 96 hours of foot patrol throughout the downtown area. 1 female was arrested on an outstanding warrant. 1 violation ticket was issued under the Motor Vehicle Act. 3 violation tickets under the Liquor Control and Licensing Act. 7 warnings under the Liquor Control and Licensing Act. They assisted with several calls and collaborated with community partners, Nelson Mental Health, Anchor, Stepping Stone, Salvation Army, and Victim Services. The community safety officer did an informal survey with the businesses downtown. 30 of 43 businesses were spoken to. 37 businesses indicated that increased foot patrols were beneficial. 3 thought that they were not beneficial. 3 were unsure. 11 businesses reported noting an increase in police presence downtown. 15 businesses reported a decrease in street disorder after the past few months during this foot patrol time. 4 businesses reported an increase in street disorder over the same period, and 3 businesses reported no change. 7 businesses reported that police have been responsive and helpful when assistance was needed. And open to any questions.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions on the inspector's report? Jen?
Jason, are we reapplying to see if we can get another round of funding for CCF?
We still have another project ongoing that I'll be reporting on probably in the next one, and then we'll see where the funding is at after
Okay,
that.
thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Do we have someone to move the proposed resolution that the Nelson Police Board approves the inspector's report as presented? Karen, seconder Eric. Okay. All right, we're going to go to committee reports. So the first one is governance. Oh, sorry, finance and budget, but I understand there's no report for today,
Yep.
Eric. Okay. So governance, policy, and risk. I'm currently wearing the hat as chair there, although Marta is the other member and has been very helpful on the committee so far. So you can see that we have updated the terms of reference, and I'm assuming that people have reviewed the governance terms of reference. Yeah, I mean, basically the overall idea here is that, we're going to update and review the manual that we all operate under. We're going to look at legal compliance standards, strategic plans, risk registers, and policies and procedures. So we're trying to have overall oversight on all of that. And unless there's any other questions, I would need someone to put forth that the board approves the Governance Policy and Risk Management Committee terms of reference as presented. Marta, seconder Devin, all in favor? Oh, I don't think so. Okay. So I have a couple of items just for information. Under the Police Act, I think it was section 173.1, and also a letter that we got from, I believe, the Solicitor General's office, Shiloh. So the board is required to develop a policy for service and policy complaints. And the legislative section also requires like a public engagement process. So I've spoken with Karen and Marta. The plan there is that the governance committee will develop a proposed board policy that we'll bring to the next meeting. And during that time, concurrently, the community committee will develop the process for public consultation or engagement. And we will bring that to the March meeting for recommendation and approval. And the deadline is April 28th of this year for boards to have that in place. So we're also working with the province to get some support in that regard. Any questions for governance? Okay. So human resources, Marta.
Thank you. Yes. So right now that the committee is myself, Eric, and Christine, we are presenting to you our terms of reference and asking for your approval. We had a busy month. In addition to working on this, we also met with Lindsay from the city to kind of get a download from her about how they've been supporting the department and how we might kind of collaborate on key issues. And we've met with the chief to talk about HR issues. So that's really all I have to, I guess I can talk more about the HR committee scope. So at 1.2, you can kind of see the scope of the types of things we may be looking at. And we did get that from the provincial SharePoint site. So obviously there's the chief overseeing and performance management of the chief, succession planning, but also some broader issues related to recruitment, retention, workplace culture, collective bargaining, etc.
Any questions for Marta on HR terms of reference or otherwise? Can I have someone put forward a motion to adopt the terms of reference for Human Resources Committee as presented? Eric, seconder Karen. Okay. Community Engagement Committee, Karen, over to you.
Okay, so we had our first meeting in January on the committee, or Devin, Janice, Christine sat in as well. And it was really just coming up with terms of reference for the communications committee, which is attached. So we just need your okay on that. And now I'll set the meeting with the chief for early in the next couple of weeks to go over additional information.
Any questions for the community committee? Okay. Can someone put forward the proposed resolution to adopt the community engagement committee terms of reference? Devin, seconder Marta, all in favor? Approved. We have technology and modernization, but that is going to be incorporated into governance for now because we don't have any board members who can actually bring expertise there. So that will be as part of the strategic plan oversight for now.
All right, I do have one thing.
Go ahead.
Missed it when we were at the HR resolution. I think we want to just update the name of the committee to remove labor relations.
Oh,
So sorry, I missed that when I was going around the first time, but
it's in the terms of reference, it's updated.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I
So
think
just
for
the
information.
the kind of the resolution could be changed. Because right now in the resolution, it has labor relations. So just take that out of the resolution. Thank you.
Okay, BC Association of Police Boards, Eric.
I can tell you, we met at the JIBC in Vancouver on Monday. I guess it was Wednesday. It's a pretty interesting meeting. We did a couple, like we went to a sexual assault scenario, but like they had a professional actor there, and it was pretty interesting to see. And I think those guys did a great job who were doing it. We also saw like control tactics, a lot of takedown, and looked at their facility. We also had kind of a more detailed meeting about kind of a bunch of topics. They're going to give me the slides, so I'll pass those on. I think kind of the general feeling was that, they've increased the seats. I guess it's 144, 3 times a year. And it seems like demand and supply pretty much almost equal. I think supply said they had 5 seats unopened, so I think that's an improvement. Like I said, when I send the slides, it'll have the details, but I think that's about it. I think there was the 2 things that were talked were not updating the fitness, well, possibly updating the fitness test. What do you guys call it? Pole pat. I guess just because of the RCMP kind of reducing their, that was in discussion. I don't think anything was really firm on what that would be. We kind of asked about potential student residency at these things, and they said long-term, but it's in their I don't realm of possibility, but 5-10 years, they said maybe.
And Eric, from a board perspective, were there any key takeaways from your perspective that you think would be important for us to know?
Those were the big ones. I'll provide the slides. There was some discussions on, funding as always. The province was there as well to kind of keep all the questions. So the answers were very political, not very useful, but I think, the slides were good because it was just a detailed overview of everything and how kind of things are done, but key takeaways, kind of what I said. I would say it was more of it was good to meet and greet and, see the facility and, kind of get a better idea of what we talk about in these meetings. They also, the JV said that if we want them at our board meeting, they're willing to come.
Great. Okay.
I said all the way to Nelson. We'll see.
They may not know what they offer, but.
Yeah, no, that's good. I found it very good.
Okay, thank you. And thank you in advance for sending around the PowerPoints.
Yeah.
And if anything comes of that, we can speak to it at a further meeting.
Were you in Vancouver?
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay. Oh, that's I need these kind of, sorry, I just have to go back to the top of my agenda here.
On that note, Shiloh, it'd be really nice to actually just have a physical copy of the agenda with the motions so that I'm not having to scroll. That's the only,
Yeah.
unless we figure out more by next week, but
Like a separate.
that was nice.
Yeah,
That was
printout.
with
I
the
like that.
agenda
If you're gonna
notes,
have
is
this kind of agenda, that having the printout so you can
It's,
at least see it's like to have the executive summary.
yeah, I like the, yeah.
So I just went back up to the top of 32 pages here.
Yeah, so can I just suggest that if anyone wants a hard copy prior to a meeting, that they just reach out by email to Shiloh and just let her know that you want that kind of thing for now. We are adjusting this over time, so there will be easier links going forward. We're just working through some of those things, so. Okay, so the next item is policy review. For information, the chief has forwarded on to the governance committee, missing persons, sexual offenses, and one we got today or yesterday, there was a third one, I thought.
So profiteering.
Profiteering. So governance committee will be looking at those and bringing recommendation back to the board in terms of amended wording or adoption after, and we're going to be meeting with the chief just generally about how we deal with this because it's a big undertaking.
Yeah,
So,
I have 4 or 5 more I'll be sending.
Yeah. yeah.
Grandma.
So, yeah, so we'll figure out something more, maybe hopefully efficient in terms of how we might want to go about this when we meet with you.
Okay.
I don't know if we have the meeting set up, but in the next few weeks.
So, if I
Yes,
could,
Janice, go
sorry,
ahead.
kind of on a
Mayor.
separate, but whatever, you've got a policy on, profiteering. It would be lovely if it's possible for, if we can circulate in that some, like I know it has to get approved by the group, but we just last night at council, put through some recommendations that we want to send to the AKBLG, which is the local association meeting that local government goes to. And that meeting is in, also Payne is there. She'll tell me what the date is. It's in the
End of April.
end of April. Anyways, we've had to put some resolutions forward. One of the resolutions pertains to that idea of profiteering or people doing illegal things on Marketplace. Now, I don't need that. We have to submit these resolutions by the 17th. What it might be is a nice compliment, or there could be information within your policy that when we have to get up to speak to this issue at the AKBLG, the Association of Kootenay Boundary Local Governments, there might be something in there. So I don't know if I can have a sneak peek before it gets vetted through all of the channels of the board, but I'd be very interested in, and as you probably know, Chief, I have in the past been mentioned in a couple of these local scams that people on Marketplace and such to go and pick up their product at the mayor's house. So I have been, just because people use your name and pull it out of a hat. So if you wouldn't mind, if it's possible for me to take a look at that or a read, I'd like to see kind of where we are, what we're also doing within a local jurisdiction.
Yeah, and just to clarify, I mean, profiteering is covered off with it, but it's the profit-oriented.
Proceeds of crime.
More like
Well, yeah,
drugs
but
or,
No, it covers off, it's related to criminal activity that results in a profit. So it's money, then it covers money laundering,
oh, okay.
proceeds
So
of
a little bit
crime,
different.
seizing proceeds of crime and having them forfeited to the crown, and then the civil forfeiture process. So
Okay.
it's more, I mean, it's more on the investigational side,
Okay.
and then having a look at if there is any of those types of offenses within the criminality that then we can go after assets and cash.
Right. It's just that when I hear those words, it kind of just springs to me, because we had quite an involved discussion last night on these 4 resolutions that we were putting forward. But, we discussed online harm and we discussed this whole thing of marketplace scams and stuff like that. So I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to miss a piece of information that might be useful going forward. But now that you've explained that, I appreciate that. Thank you, Chief.
Yeah, the criminal code probably would be more appropriate to look at, but then it's the avenues open to us as part of the investigation to go
Right.
out to those proceeds.
Okay.
And just for clarity, like any board member can ask to have a copy of these. It's just that the governance committee would be accountable for actually looking at, and they are not approved until back to the chief until the board, has that opportunity based on a recommendation from the governance committee. So, yeah, Martha.
And Mayor, if you have any substantive recommendations for us, we would be interested to understand your thinking as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is a whole new framework. And I do know that there's Sergeant Shea is participating in some of the other work that I'm doing on online harm and hate crime. So yeah, so police are sort of involved in, it's a long process, but I'd be more than willing to bring anything back that I thought was of interest to the police board for sure.
And I think, so Chief, is there a specific policy on this that is part of this policy review, or is this something completely new?
Sorry, I'm not sure. I
Well,
understand the
the
question.
online harm topic is separate from the policy we just talked about.
Yeah.
Yes.
So is there another type of policy where this issue is more directly spoken to currently?
Well, they would fall under like criminal harassment and those types of policies. So depending on,
Okay.
fraud, online fraud, that'd be covered off with the fraud policy. So the actual offense itself, not to do with the offense related to the proceeds they gain from the frauds, but the actual criminal offenses. So fraud, online, like harassment, I think would fall under that.
Yeah.
It's more-
And
Yeah, I
those
mean,
are
and we
to be, those we have not received yet in terms of this
Yeah.
updated policy review.
No,
So
and as
those
a-
are to come.
A really quick overview, we looked at a couple of, sort of prioritizing the policies going forward. So our priorities were kind of wants to do with, I would say, human resources and the use of office technologies and equipment policies for probably some obvious reasons. And then we've looked at prioritizing. The consultant that's doing it has looked at the list of provincial policing standards that have been set out for the past 10 plus years and made sure that any place that had a policing standard set that is actually required to be within our policy, those are the policies that are being reviewed first. So that, and as usual, there's certain policies that have significant risk and potential harm to the community are our priorities, but those generally are the ones where policing standards have been applied to because of those reasons. So it's kind of checking off a few boxes as to what we've identified as the priorities, like sexual assaults and missing persons files are significant risk policies. And there is a significant number of updates and recent updates to the policing standards and reporting requirements for those types of investigations. And the major case management and homicide policies are currently the ones that are kind of next on the list. So, it's sort of priorities for the department and then priorities for policing and investigations that have been identified to be done first. And then we'll start working through the less, I guess, severe or significant policies, which generally are shorter as well. So they'll probably start coming out faster, but it won't be as long to review either when we get to the end.
Yeah, and the governance committee is going to meet with you and align more specifically on how this works with the board. And so that's to come. Thank you. Anything else on policies before we move on? Okay. No regulatory updates, new business. Okay, so I wasn't sure about the report from BC Human Rights Commission, if that was for information.
It got sent out late,
Yeah.
so I'm not sure if everybody had a chance to
Yeah.
read it.
Basically, just like just 1 minute, there was a report. I believe it came out today. At least it's being reported in the media today about the encampment in Vancouver, where City of Vancouver and police went and took the encampment down. I don't know all the details, but the BC Human Rights Committee did issue a report, and I think it's important that our community team engagement committee looks at it and brings anything back to the board that they feel is relevant for the board to consider. However, I do want to point out that the commissioner concluded the board in this case, so the Vancouver Police Board, abdicated its legal responsibility to properly investigate this complaint following the principles of procedural fairness. The details, I'm not completely, because I haven't read through the whole report, but what I understand is the person that they appointed to do the investigation was someone who essentially had a conflict and was not an independent investigator. And so I think as a board, we will be interested to learn more about this after the community committee kind of reads through it for us and brings back some of the pertinent points. But it's something for us as a board to, think about and learn from that experience and how it might be incorporated into our work as well. So, Marta?
What are the implications of the Human Rights Commission finding that the board abdicated its duty?
Well, I'm not exactly sure. I mean, they've made a certain finding, but, I think some of the police, I don't know if it's the police chief or which organization came out and I think already have said they disagree with some of the findings. So, you know, I don't believe that it has any, you know, immediate consequence or implications. It'd be like a coroner's report. There's recommendations. There's a number of recommendations. And so I think that's why we're asking our community committee to think more seriously about this, read the report and come back to the board when it's the right time for us to have the time to think about it in more depth and with, you know, sort of meaningful thought. Okay. Devin, go ahead.
No, it's okay. I'm just looking at this thing. I was
Yeah.
like, ooh, that's interesting.
Yeah, there's lots of
In my
things
leg.
to watch there, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
we're gonna-
Pages, yeah, like have a little read there, yeah.
Yeah. We're gonna move on.
Yeah.
Unless you brought your, you know, sleeping bag and pajamas. So unless there's anything else, I would like someone to move that the regular meeting of the board is adjourned and the next meeting will be held on March 4th, 2026 at 4:30 p.m. Karen, seconder, Devin. Approved. Passed, approved. Okay. That's the end of the.
So